Hello everyone, welcome back. Now, this question just seemed important. It was popping up, and so I thought I'd do a video to talk a bit about this. And it's why narcissists make stupid choices despite their smarts. And it's really quite interesting, actually. I thought it was a really good topic to speak about. And with this, okay, because what we're doing here, it's interesting when we're saying this, we're talking about smarts, and we always do this. We still there's still something in this question where we're thinking other people always see the world like we do. Okay, we naturally kind of empathize with ourselves and way of being. So maybe we're looking at this person and we think, that's freaking weird they did that. Surely they're smarter than that. But the key is here, if we use that term loosely, like emotional intelligence, the person probably can like talk the talk, can have a lot of very interesting, curious insights. Maybe it holds even high qualifications and whatever, maybe holds down some sort of good job or etc. But we can look at things from the outside and just think, oh my god, that's just completely dumb, because we're looking at things through our standard. And I think here there's a few parts to this. One of them is just that question, I think, of just emotional intelligence. Because even though the person seems smart, well, maybe their IQ seems high enough. But they sometimes say with someone with high narcissistic traits, their emotional maturity can be something like a 6-year-old. Okay, so if we think of that being there, that level of an imbalance. So whereas we could talk very intellectually about something, but if someone just has that level of immaturity and like narcissism, but by nature children can be quite narcissistic, just very me. That's the thing they're going back to. So we can look at it like just those types of smarts. We can think of it like a classic. You may have heard this before, but just the intelligence like an IQ versus EQ. Okay, so we could look at it like literally just the emotional intelligence is so low. They're literally, even though we say they're smart, it's like that's the question we're answering here, but we're talking about a different type of smart. They're actually quite stupid in this sense. Sorry, I know that's very harsh language, but in an emotional sense, they're not smart at all. Their emotional maturity is that of a 6-year-old, but their IQ could be smart, maybe even smarter than ours. So we can give that split. Another thing, I'm just looking at some notes here, and this is more a kind of I think the key thing is just like they're not actually smart in an emotional sense, so that's important given the intelligence split there, because a common thing we reinforce inside it is more IQ, but you probably know, and I know through counselling, the EQ is emotional intelligence is even though it's a bit of a can be get a bit loose and a bit of vague term, but I think it stands for something, and that's very low in someone with these traits. Also, I more want to draw attention to, I guess, the way more kind of giving the credibility to the fact that you're noticing this stupidity, and that and I guess that's sort of saying something about your level of probably more enlightened and overall insight into life and your constructive steps. Think, oh my god, why that's just like so ridiculous. But here this can be good to acknowledge why they do these stupid things. It can be good for your enlightenment and learning. So I've given that thing just to say, well, just splitting it like IQ, EQ, and the fact that theirs is probably like a lot lower. They sometimes say like a 6-year-old. But also for your thing, like I call it like the whole spectrum of mental health, and to even take that further and just acknowledging this whole spectrum of how actually stupid people can be, and how this is representative of an actual could say like a disorder and the real like mental state of narcissism. I recently I was listening to a talk, and it was actually a psychologist speaking about Hitler. I found it really interesting, and look, here we're going. I actually did this in an image I did once, the spectrum of mental health, and I put Hitler as like a classic extreme, not narcissist, we'd say more like megalomaniac psychopath. But this conversation, it actually said, when you think about how bad he was, when you really think it through and dig deeper, it may even be worse than what you thought. And what this conversation drew attention to was the modus operandi with that. You know, we say we may have seen my other videos. I can liken narcissism to being like a shark or like a vampire, just getting stuff. And they say with Hitler, the way of being was it was in this psychologist called it mayhem. Okay, it wasn't even like, I mean, the whole, obviously what he did, you know, like executing and getting rid of people, etc., etc. I mean, that's like absolutely atrocious. But he said even with that, there wasn't actually a plan. You know, this wasn't even like thought out to a level of like this we could say as horrible as it will be. Okay, we really want to get rid of those people because they're less than. So that would, if we had, even if we were like really horrible and you know there could be some level of okay, but we'll get to this stage first and then maybe we can win this war and then we'd get rid of them afterwards. Could be one thing. That would still be absolutely horrible. But this psychologist was drawing attention to the whole modus operandi of Hitler was just being in mayhem, because his intention wasn't even protecting the German people and coming through and having this issue thing. The actual more thing was about just the attacking and killing all these people. That was the thing. So the way of being like that, and I'm just taking this to a farther and farther extreme, just to more you know, to help your overall understanding of the I call it the spectrum of mental health, and it's to a lesser degree with narcissism, but it's still there. You're just noticing this thing, and that's what we call like a dumb decision. It's so emotionally stupid, and with Hitler to a much like larger extreme, it makes no sense because the person's operating in a completely different way of being. This thing is operating in a way which is just mayhem. It's like a lesser version of Hitler just wanted to kill these people because of killing people. That was the thing. That was the point. There's no emotional intent. It's about just doing harm, causing mayhem, and that's when we look into a lesser degree with narcissism, but still the same thing. That's what they're doing. That there isn't this even an overarching. Oh, I'm being a bit mean to this person, and then I'll move on to doing this. Then I'll be all better. The acting out is about this narcissistic supply. It's about a doing harm. And yeah, I guess I'm just giving this talk as a bit of a pass on, because I found this talk from a psychologist very interesting, and just to sort of see this idea that to a lesser degree than Hitler, because they're not that extreme, narcissism isn't as extreme as that, but they're operating in this level of mayhem. There isn't a coherent, it's very low emotional intelligence. There isn't a coherent thought out of, oh well, if I can just do this and do this, then I will get to here. There's an acting out. Again, I've talked about this before, like their shadow, their personal pain, their self-reflection, that's all just like pushed away. They're acting out a whole way of being, just like a shark seeking blood, or like I think it's said well in little stories around vampires. It's just like acting out a mayhem. There isn't a thinking of a coherent a life plan or a vision that's going towards something. It's a mayhem acting out. So so I think this is why narcissists make stupid decisions despite their smarts, because it kept coming up as an important question. But the question in itself is kind of a bit of an oxymoron, because people, narcissists will go into a level of psychopathology or an extreme, like I mentioned, Hitler, that it's operating from a place that isn't actually smart. It's stupid. There's no emotional intelligence to the point of it being completely devoid, and actually this getting hits from narcissistic supply, like emotionally hurting people, or to that more and more extreme, the killing people. It's a way of being that's not it's on the dark side of humanity. It's not in our commonly people to go to counselling, maybe they've done things they regret, etc., but there's something looking at a journey towards like wholeness and integrity and some sort of way of being that's functional and connecting. And people on this like darker side, they're not operating that way. So they make stupid choices because they may have high IQ, but they're not overall smart. It's degenerative, and about creating mayhem, and that's why they do these things that seem completely stupid in their choices. I hope that's given you some good insight. I know I had to do a bit of talking around the question, so to speak, but I still feel I answered it because it kept coming up, but trying to split it apart in these different ways. And yeah, I think it's interesting, this really drive to mayhem, and I felt that other example passed from a psychologist was interesting too, just to take it to those extremes. I hope you're getting something out of these videos. I want to keep doing them to help people who have experienced distress from a present or past relationship. I offer counselling sessions in person and online. Lots of free content if you go to mygreatrelationships.com. A lot of free audios that will help you ground yourself and build new foundations and find the best communication style. And also, I also have a digital program. It's called Foundation Builder, and that's very helpful for people too. So feel free to like and subscribe. If you comment, I'll send a reply, and I'll continue to give the best value I can. Take care.